Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're diving into a complete, and I mean absolutely radical paradigm shift when it comes to breaking bad habits and totally transforming who you are. We are throwing out that exhausting cycle of white-knuckling it with pure willpower. Instead, we're going to look at how to actually rewire your deepest identity and, this is the crazy part, release the physical trauma that's literally stored inside your body.
So let me ask you something. What if your bad habits aren't actually real? Think about it. We usually look at our destructive loops, the overeating, the endless doom scrolling, reacting with sudden anger. We see them as these heavy concrete chains. But the source material we're digging into today presents a wild concept. What we think of as these rock-solid habits, they're often just illusions. They're basically just old, outdated software codes running in the background, programs we just kind of blindly absorbed from our past environments.
It's exactly like that classic scene in The Matrix. The kid tells Neo, "Do not try to bend the spoon. There is no spoon," right? To try and bend the spoon, you first have to believe the spoon is this big, real obstacle. If you try to aggressively fight a habit head-on, you're actually giving it way more power. You're turning it into this massive threat in your brain. There's this great story about the philosopher Osho. People would come to him wanting to quit smoking, and he wouldn't tell them to throw their cigarettes away, no way. Instead, he told them to smoke, but to do it with total, complete mindfulness. Because the moment you stop acting like an unconscious automatic machine and become an actual conscious observer, the grip of that habit, it just completely dissolves.
Now, there is a huge difference, a stark contrast really, between how most of us try to build habits and how we actually should be doing it. Goal-based habits are entirely external. I want to lose 10 pounds, so you go on a strict diet. But the second you hit that goal or you just get too tired, what happens? You snap right back like a rubber band. And why is that? Because your internal self-image didn't change at all. The real game changer is identity-based habits. The source gives a perfect example for this. If you see yourself internally as just a silent kid, forcing yourself to go out and network is going to fail miserably. But if you internally shift your core identity to someone who absolutely loves to speak and share complex ideas, well, suddenly your brain actively rewards you with a hit of dopamine every time you do it. To really wrap our heads around this, we need a quick peek at the neuroscience. Whenever you try to force a new habit, your prefrontal cortex, that's the conscious, choice-making part of your brain right behind your forehead, it goes into absolute overdrive. And honestly, it gets tired super fast. The real goal here is to move that behavior over to the basal ganglia. This is basically your brain's ultimate automation center. Once a behavior is coded in there, you become what the source calls choiceless. You don't have to wake up and wrestle with yourself every single morning about doing the right thing. It's just fully automated. Section 1. The Armor of Trauma, How Bodies Store Habits. Okay, this is where things get incredibly deep. We almost always think of bad habits as purely mental hurdles, right? But actually, they are physical defense mechanisms that are literally protecting us from past environments. And this all happens through something called fascia. So fascia is this giant interconnected web of tissue running throughout your entire body. The source material explains it like this. Let's say you grew up in a really chaotic environment where you were constantly yelled at. As a kid, your natural physical instinct was probably to hunch your shoulders up and hide your neck to protect yourself. Well, over time, your fascia literally hardens into that exact defensive posture. So the childhood environment that caused the fear is long gone, but your physical body, it's still wearing that armor. And all of this trapped energy, which is often referred to as Shakti, creates massive physical blockages inside you. Like, you might have a super stiff jaw right now from holding back tears when you were a kid, which ends up tightening your entire skull. Emotionally, this can manifest as a complete inability to just say a confident yes or no. And here's the kicker. When all that pent-up energy is desperately trying to find an exit, but it hits your physical armor, it bursts out as compulsive coping mechanisms. That's the binge drinking, the sudden anger, the chronic negativity. You're literally just compensating for a physical and emotional blockage. Section 2. The Cutie Protocol. So how do we actually fix this? How do we strip off this invisible physical armor? Well, we use a very targeted 5-step framework. It's an acronym called the Cutie Protocol, and it acts as our roadmap. Creative state, understand patterns, teach new emotions, identify and hold space, and finally, embrace positivity. Let's break down exactly how you execute every single step of this.
All right, step 1 is entering the creative state. Look, when you're a total slave to your bad habits, you are basically living in an animalistic survival mode.
You're just constantly reacting to fear and lack. To shift out of that, you've got to radically expand your focus. The source recommends doing an open focus meditation. But you don't just sit there and try to clear your mind. Instead, you deeply, intentionally scan your body. You become intensely aware of the physical weight, the stiffness, and the exact sensations happening in every single part of your body.
And to really take step 1 to the next level, the source introduces bioenergetics. Now, this is not just standard yoga stretching. This is about holding a highly strenuous posture to basically crack open the subconscious. Imagine standing up on your tiptoes with straight legs, leaning over kind of like a startled cat. If you hold a tough, strange posture like this long enough, your body will literally start to vibrate and shake uncontrollably. And that physical shaking, that is the trauma actually leaving your body. It's releasing deeply trapped subconscious energy that you've been locking away for years. It violently yet necessarily grounds you right back into your physical form. Okay, so once you're grounded, you move right into step 2, understand patterns. This is where you have to literally name the urge. So when that familiar desire to do your bad habit hits, maybe it's a sudden hot wave of anger or this heavy feeling of being totally unloved, do not react. I repeat, do not fight it, and definitely do not act on it. Instead, you just sit with that exact emotional urge. Just observe it. Look at it like a scientist studying a bug under a microscope. By just letting it exist without reacting, you completely dissolve its immense power over you. Now we arrive at the absolute crux of the matter. Step 3, teach new emotions. Here's the thing you have to understand. Thoughts are the language of the mind, but emotions are the language of the body. You cannot just think your way into a new habit. You have to physically alter your body's chemistry. How do you do that? You actively consume different media, you read different books, and most importantly, you physically act out the identity of the person you actually want to become. Like, if you want to be someone who brings immense value to the world, literally go outside and help someone. Feed a stray animal. You have to give your body the actual chemical experience of that new identity. Moving on to step 4, identify and hold space. I really want to pause and reassure you here. Rewiring your entire physical and mental being. It is not a perfectly straight line, not at all. You are absolutely going to have moments where the old urge feels totally overwhelming. And yeah, you might relapse. When that happens, you must hold space for yourself. Don't immediately fall into some toxic spiral of guilt. Just stay present, identify the slip-up for what it is, and gently hold space for your own healing process. And finally, step 5, embrace positivity. The source material is completely uncompromising about this. You must aggressively reject chronic negativity. It will literally just burn you out. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean you have to be some blissfully perfect robot all the time. What it really means is learning to hold complex opposites within yourself. You can be deeply, beautifully vulnerable, yet fiercely and intensely confident at the exact same time. The real magic happens when you can balance those powerful opposites inside you. Section 3, the chemistry of joy. There's this absolutely fascinating Japanese study on diabetic patients that illustrates this perfectly. Researchers took these patients and split them into 2 groups right before feeding them a heavy meal. Group A sat down and watched a really hilarious comedy show. Group B had to sit through a dull, boring lecture. Want to guess the results? Group A, the people who experienced genuine joy and laughter, ended up with blood sugar levels that were 50% lower than Group B. 50 is literally rewriting your physical biology in real time. So when you are building your new life and breaking out of those old software codes, your absolute foundation, the main course of your life, has to be pure love, joy, and happiness. You cannot operate from a place of fear. Instead, you use fear and insecurity like tiny little sprinkles on top of a meal. You just need a tiny, tiny pinch of fear to keep you grounded, keep you humble, and make sure you're looking both ways before you cross the street. But it is never the main course. All right, we have covered a tremendous amount of ground today, moving from the illusions of the mind to the deep physical armor of our fascia, all the way through the life-changing cutie protocol. So, I want to leave you with one final provocative question. Are you ready to stop fighting your habits with exhausting willpower and finally drop that physical armor so you can rewrite your code from the inside out? Really think about it. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.